I am not a historian, but neither are you. So, how about we, the people, learn this stuff together? Welcome to US 101. And before today's episode begins, class, I'd like you all to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. When I was a kid in elementary school, way back in the day, way back in the day, the day would always start in the same way. Someone would get on the loudspeaker and they would lead the entire student body in a recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance. And you guys know how the Pledge of Allegiance goes, right? You put your hand over your heart and you say, "I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all." Now, as I got older, the reciting of the Pledge of Allegiance became less and less frequent. Didn't do it in middle school, didn't do it in high school, certainly didn't do it in college. But apparently, Pledge of Allegiance is still said in quite a few schools across the country. But why? Why do thousands, if not millions of school children kick off their day by reciting a pledge of loyalty to their country when some of them can't even do simple addition yet? No, that is very incorrect. And furthermore, if you don't recite the Pledge of Allegiance in class, could you get in trouble? Could you even be expelled from school? How about we dive into this tale, guys? I've wanted to get into this one for a while. We take you back to the year 1891, where a young preacher, I guess former preacher at this point, named Francis Bellamy, gets a job working for a magazine called The Youth Companion, which has a subscriber base of about 500,000 people, and he gets a job in their promotions department. Now, one of Bellamy's tasks was to come up with a program that would commemorate the 400th anniversary of Christopher Columbus landing in the New World. So did Bellamy sit down at his desk and begin writing a brief history of how Columbus came to the New World, and he enslaved indigenous people, murdered indigenous people, and stole away with some of their gold? Instead, Bellamy went to work on coming up with a pledge that school children could recite to salute the American flag. And after about 2 hours of what Bellamy described as mental, arduous labor, he came up with the following pledge. "I pledge allegiance to my flag and the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all." Now, here's an obvious question. As I said in the beginning, Francis Bellamy was a preacher at one time in his life. And if the guy was a preacher, why didn't he put the words "under God" in his first draft of the Pledge of Allegiance? And the answer is because Bellamy was not your typical preacher, okay? When he was a preacher in Boston, Massachusetts, a lot of his sermons to his congregation didn't really fall in line with what was traditionally preached in a church. And for that matter, because he was a socialist, a lot of his viewpoints didn't really fall in line with capitalist viewpoints. And not only was Bellamy a socialist, but he was also kind of racist, because he wrote one time that in addition to capitalism in the Gilded Age, he also wrote that, quote, "every alien immigrant of inferior race," end quote, would mess up traditional American values. Also, here's something that I found kind of funny. Bellamy, being a socialist, was the one that wrote the pledge. Meanwhile, the owner of the youth magazine, a magazine mogul named Daniel Sharp Ford, used Bellamy's pledge to go ahead and make himself some extra cash. Ford decided to entice people to buy his magazine and to subscribe to his magazine by also offering them an American flag. So every time someone subscribed to the magazine, they were given a brand new shiny United States flag. Capitalism via patriotism. Now, when you recite the Pledge of Allegiance, what other action are you performing during that recitation? You put your hand over your heart, right? Well, when Bellamy wrote his original pledge, he had another idea in mind as to how to salute the American flag during the pledge, which would then be known as the Bellamy Salute. Bellamy defined his salute as thus, and if there are any teachers that are showing this video in class to their students, I would warn you to make sure that you don't have your students perform the Bellamy Salute out of context, because it probably won't go over well with anybody. At a signal from the principal, the pupils, in ordered ranks, hands to the side, face the flag. Another signal is given. Every pupil gives the flag the military salute. Right hand lifted, palm downward to align with the forehead and close to it. Standing thus, all repeat together slowly, "I pledge allegiance to my flag and the republic for which it stands, one nation indivisible, with liberty and justice for all." At the words "to my flag," the right hand is extended gracefully, palm upward toward the flag, and remains in this gesture till the end of the affirmation, whereupon all hands immediately drop to the side. Yeah, so all the school children that you're seeing here performing what looks to be the Nazi salute, that is not baby Gestapo in training. Those are American school children saluting the American flag. And they would continue to salute the flag in that manner all the way up until 1942, when this jerk over here had to go ahead and ruin it for everyone. And not only did he ruin the salute, but he also ruined that particular style of mustache. But before we changed the salute from an extended right arm to hands over our hearts, there were a few changes made to the words of the Pledge of Allegiance. Changes that made the pledge more patriotic, especially to immigrants that were coming to the United States, to kind of give them somewhat of a reminder that the flag that they were saluting was not their home country's flag, but would now be their adopted home country. In 1923, the My Flag part of the pledge was officially changed to the flag of the United States of America. And then in 1954, the words "Under God" were added to the pledge, thanks in part to a lot of lobbying from a group known as the Knights of Columbus, which is a Catholic organization. Plus, you also have to remember that in 1954, the United States was in the midst of a Cold War with the Soviet Union. And what was coming out of the Soviet Union? These godless communists that were going to try to infiltrate our shores, our culture, our way of life, our people. So by adding "Under God," we reaffirmed that we were in fact a Christian nation. It makes sense, right? However, it would be those words, "Under God," that had a father up in arms in 2004. In 2004, a father by the name of Michael Newdow, who was an atheist, sued his daughter's school district, which was the Elk Grove School District in California, saying that by having her stand up and recite the Pledge of Allegiance, which includes the words "Under God," it was a type of religious indoctrination and infringed upon the First Amendment of freedom of religion. His case would actually make it all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the court ruled against Newdow, saying that because he didn't have sufficient custody of his daughter, he could not make this type of case. Newdow and the daughter's mother were divorced at the time. She had sufficient custody. He did not. Oh, but 2004 is not the first time that the Supreme Court would hear cases regarding the Pledge of Allegiance. In fact, if you guys click this card right over here, it'll take you to a video that my dear friend and colleague, Mr. Beat, just put out that talks about some of those Supreme Court cases that took place in the 1940s. Those cases involve Jehovah's Witnesses, how the Jehovah's Witnesses didn't want to recite the Pledge of Allegiance because it stood against their religious beliefs, and the final decisions of the Supreme Court. I could have discussed them here, but he breaks it down much better than I do, so go ahead and watch his video. You'll thank me for it. But now that you have a history of the Pledge of Allegiance, how it came into being, why certain parts of the Pledge of Allegiance were added later on, what do you think? I'd love to hear from you. Do you think that the Pledge of Allegiance should be recited in schools? Do you think that the words "Under God" should be in the Pledge of Allegiance? Do you even think that the United States of America needs a Pledge of Allegiance? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And I know that this topic can get a bit dicey sometimes, so can we keep all the commenting in the comment section a bit civil, please? Huh? We're all adults here, hopefully, maybe not. Regardless, act like an adult. Just let's keep the conversation civil. And that, my friends, is it for this episode of US 101. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Really do appreciate it. And to all of you that have been subscribing to the channel, thank you guys so much for showing your support. I sincerely appreciate it. And thanks to all of you that watch the videos, like them, share them, and as always, leave comments in the comments section. As always, guys, you can follow US 101 on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and yeah, you can follow us on Snapchat too. All those links down below in the description box. Guys, I will see you next Tuesday for our spooky US 101 Halloween episode. Can't wait to dive into that one, man. I already know what I'm going to talk about. It's a pretty cool story. So until then, guys, I am all done. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. You guys know how it goes. You say it for yourself. I'm going to go get a snack. See y'all later.